Hello, everybody. Welcome to Keeping the Beat, an engaging web series hosted live by TNMEA in partnership with the CMA Foundation. Tune in weeknights, Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time to learn from and interact with music professionals from all around the globe, representing every facet of the vast world of music. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. My name is Mr. Franklin Willis, and I serve as the elementary music coach with the Metro Nashville Public Schools. Tonight, I will be talking about how to find brilliance in our students. We'll be taking a deep dive into that word brilliance. What does it mean? How does it look? How do we characterize it? What are the things that we should be looking for to find brilliance in our students? Furthermore, we will be looking into how we ourselves identify brilliance. So, I encourage you to interact by replying to this live video stream with your questions and comments, which I will respond to throughout the hour with the assistance of my lovely wife, Erica. One disclaimer, while this is being streamed live, it will remain on the Keeping the Beat Facebook page for future reference. So as such, your comments will also remain a part of the archive. So, I'm happy that you are here. Come on in, share this, comment. I look forward to the collaboration and learning with you guys tonight. This is a first for me, and we're going to have fun while finding the brilliance in our students. So a little bit about me. I am the elementary music coach for M&PS public school system here in Nashville. I have 11 years of music education experience in elementary and middle school. I am a 3-time recipient of the CMA Foundation Music Teachers of Excellence Award. And I am a lifelong learner and advocate for music education. So now that you know a little bit about me, I want to tell you what my objectives are for this presentation. Teachers will create their own definition of brilliance for themselves and their students. Identify and understand fear-based narratives. And then lastly, I want you to reflect on your personal educational journey. So, if we have some folks in on the Facebook Live, I want you to chime in on this question. What is your definition of brilliance? When you think of the word brilliance, what comes to mind? It could be in an education setting, or it could be just, what do you think when you hear the word brilliance? What is your definition and how do you define that? So I'll take a few seconds and let some folks come on in. I know we started right at 8 o'clock and we may not have many folks in, but what is your definition of brilliance? That's where I want to start tonight. Me, myself, I had in my mind the word brilliance being something that was over the top. Only a few people could be brilliant. There was a small percentage of people who can be brilliant. But through this presentation, I hope to change your opinion and your view on what brilliance is. So, I want to tell you a little bit about how I got into this topic. Oh, thank you, Sarah. She said music potential. Thank you. This book, I urge everyone to take a glance and look at this book and read it. This is Christopher Emdin, For White Folks Who Teach in the Hood and the Rest of Y'all Too. Reality Pedagogy and Urban Education. I read this book a few months ago, and I just was taken aback by his candidness and by his realness. The book was somewhat like a memoir of Dr. Emden's personal experiences of being a student in the hood and then a teacher in the hood, and the drastic similarities of the two. As I read after each page in the book, I was able to identify myself, in this book. Each chapter revealed layers of truth in education that we rarely discuss or talk about in open forums. However, there was one quote that caught my eye. It was this one. Once educators recognize that they are biased against forms of brilliance other than their own, they can finally begin to truly teach. And that stuck with me. I came back to it, I looked at it, and it just really resonated with me. I had an aha moment, as they say. And I started to think that was the moment in my teaching career when I began to view each student as a holder of brilliance was the moment that my teaching changed. So let me tell you a little bit about my educational career. So I get my first job and I am excited to begin. I'm like, wow, I'm going to be this elementary music teacher. I'm going to do all these fabulous things. I was so excited to begin. I had a plan, y'all. I was going to create this dynamic music program where students would love me. They would love my classroom. I was hoping to be the musical expert in my classroom, that students would be able to sight read music immediately. I could come in and just put music on the board and it would just sound like heaven. That students would follow my classroom rules, that I would have every resource and instrument I needed for my classroom. And lastly, that parents in the school community would support my music program because I had all of this energy and I was ready to begin. Right? That was my plan. I was excited. But guess what? Expectations versus reality. I found myself not being able to do all these things that I thought I could do. I found myself questioning why I became a music educator. And I also began to create fear-based narratives that took the blame off of me and put it on the students as to why there was not much learning or fun happening in the music room. Yeah, I know. You think, what, Franklin? What are these fear-based narratives? What are you talking about? I've said them. You don't have to admit that you've said them, but I've heard them before. Oh, let me go through the list. These students don't like music. They can't read music. Teaching in the hood is tough. They can't do no real music, man. Oh, yeah, there ain't no discipline at the home. That's why they act like that. Yeah, I've been doing all I can, but you know, the teacher before me only did worksheets. These are fear-based narratives that I said my first couple of years of teaching that took the blame off of me and put it on my students. You know this one. I'm the third music teacher in 3 years. There has been no consistency. The administration at the school has changed every year I've been at the school. These kids just don't listen. I don't have enough resources. If only I had a few more resources, I could make magic happen. Every activity I try, Franklin, they just don't like it. These fear-based narratives, after you completely, continuously say them, they start to ring true. But I'm here to ask you, how do you overcome these fear-based narratives and begin the work of truly educating and teaching our kids? Number one, you have to understand the fear and you have to embrace it. You have to name the fear. So understanding that maybe my classroom management skills are not the strongest and I need help. Educate yourself. Visualize success. What would success look like in that situation? Get you some help. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Find you a mentor, a team teacher, someone in your building who can help you through this process. And be willing to pivot, be willing to change, and to adjust your expectations to the reality. So I'm a quote person. I love quotes. And this one just rang true to me. Thinking will not overcome fear, but action will. So once you feel yourself starting those fear-based narratives, begin to put action behind them so that you can move forward in a new direction. So I'm going to take a poll right quick. I don't know how many people we have on here with us, but how has fear impacted your teaching or learning? Please comment below. How has fear impacted your teaching or learning? I'll give you a few minutes to talk about that. Please feel free to tell me about your learning experience. Maybe not you as a teacher, but your learning experience. How has fear impacted that? I can speak for myself. I remember my time in choir in my college experience. You would be scared. You would be fearful to sing a wrong note. Because if you sang a wrong note, you knew something was coming your way, right? So how has fear impacted your teaching? Or also I could talk about myself. Recorder is not my strong point, y'all. Recorder. And so I was fearful to teach it my first couple of years. But then I was able to go to level trainings. I was connecting with other teachers. And the fear of teaching recorder ended up leaving me because I was able to get help. I was able to name it. I was able to understand it. So you can overcome those fear-based narratives that we tell ourselves, but you have to be willing to recognize them, acknowledge them, and do the work. So I think we may have some responses.
Yeah.
Do you want to just read them?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Jan Kroom says, I just want to be effective, but sometimes I can't adapt and teach the way I want to.
Sometimes you want to be effective, but you can't adapt and teach the way you want to. That's good. Thank you, Jan.
Spartan Farmer says, it almost stunted my growth as an educator and the personal goals that I have.
So those fear-based narratives, y'all, they're strong and they're real, and we have to call a thing a thing. So I'm going to keep moving in my presentation. Thank you for commenting. So Franklin, how did you move and navigate through that? Self-reflection is key. As I reflected on my teaching experiences, I began to see how over the years, my view of student brilliance had shifted as I continued to teach and learn. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. I had to take off the brilliance blockers. I know you're asking, what in the world are brilliance blockers? It is a perspective and a perception that brilliance has to look a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way. And that is a lie. Period. You hear me? Let me say that again. My old way of teaching and learning told me that brilliance had to look a certain way, behave in a certain manner, and perform only certain music. That is a lie. Take off those brilliance blockers and you will begin to see the brilliance that is walking beside you and in your classroom on a daily basis. So let me ask you this. What if we have been looking for brilliance in all the wrong places? That's the aha moment I said. You know, it's not always about who can sing the highest note, who could read the music the best. What about the student who shows up every time there's an after school rehearsal and gives their all? What about the student that gets off the bus and says, "Yo, what's up, Mr. Willis? Good to see you this morning." And they make that their daily routine. Is there brilliance in that? Absolutely. So, what if we change our perspective of what we think brilliance is? So, Franklin, how do we find F.I.N.D, brilliance in our students? I'm glad you asked. Flexibility, identify our biases, never give up on students, and diversify our curriculum. So this next section, I will be breaking these four little small sections down to help you understand exactly what I mean. So, flexibility in education. Flexibility in education. We all know that we have to meet students at their point of need. The days of just having something in our mind that we want to shoot for and then not actually doing the data or looking back to see where our students have come from and where they currently are, you're setting yourself up for a failure. You have to meet students at their point of need, and you have to find an entry point. Being able to acknowledge the culture that is around you, that is in your building, that is in your classroom, where your students come from, how they speak, all of that matters. Being able to find an entry point, and this is for music teachers, but it also applies to any educator, I believe. And if you've been teaching the same song for the past 5 years, and I do believe there are some gold standards, but what if we teach that old song in a new way? Find a new entry point. And there has to be a hook. Many of our students, they have trouble understanding what it is we want them to learn because we did not bring it down to their level for them to understand. So what's the hook? How are you going to get them engaged in the rigor? How are you going to get them engaged? So the first one is flexibility. Plan A, plan B, and you got to have your plan C. The next one is we have to identify our biases. Everyone has bias. You have to explore and identify your own prejudices. What holds you back from moving forward, right? None of us are immune to bias. I have them, you have them, we all have them. The question is, will you be truthful to yourself and about yourself, about what you're feeling? Understand the nature of bias. It's how we grew up. It's how we learned. It's surrounded in our culture, right? You have to retrain your brain. And in the piece that I wrote about finding your brilliance, I talked about, that moment when a certain student comes in your room and you tense up and you become very upset or you're looking for something. A lot of that has to do with bias and understanding your students and their culture. Increase mindfulness. Take time to really self-reflect on how did that lesson go? What went wrong? How can I adjust? How can I change to make that better in the future for my students, right? Check your messaging. The statement of "I don't see color," that will not work. Our students need to know that you see them and you acknowledge them and that you know who they are and where they come from. Check your messaging. Many times you don't. Sometimes we don't even realize what we're saying, and it can have a hurtful impact. And learn to slow down, especially in this season where we find ourselves, all of us, quarantined and on stay-at-home measures. It's taught me to sometimes you have to take it easy and learn to slow down and start to begin to order your steps in a way that you will be able to move forward in the future, right? So identify your biases. I love this quote. by Mr. James Baldwin. I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. We tell our students we love them and I'm proud of you, and we acknowledge that they are awesome, but then they leave out the classroom and we go down the hallway and we talk about what happened in the class to other teachers, to parents, to other folks in the building. And do you know what? Students are looking at us like, well, hold on. I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. Put action behind the thoughts and the words that you proclaim for your students. And this goes right into my next point. Never give up on students. Well, Franklin, how do I do that? Every time they come to my classroom, they just don't want to participate. They don't want to listen. They don't want to be in my room. The first thing I would say is build relationships, right? You don't have to be best friends with your students, but you have to be able to let them know that you care about them and that you see them and that you want the best for them. Offer praise, right? We all love positive reinforcement. When a student is doing something well, acknowledge that. Give them praise. And I'm not talking about the sarcastic praise. Oh, you finally brought a pencil. No, 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 no. But maybe, hey, Franklin, I want to acknowledge that you have all your materials today. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. And just go on and keep moving. That small compliment will take you a long way. Identify commonalities. What do you have in common with your students? Is it a show on TV that you both like? Is it a song on the radio that's very popular that you like with that you like and that student likes? Find some commonalities. Are your birthdays in the same month? Right? Do you have two brothers and they have two brothers? Whatever it is, find a way to connect with your students and find a commonality. Create opportunities. I love this one, right? That student that loves to talk, that's good. We want them to talk. Create an opportunity where they can be a narrator or where they can say what's coming next in the lesson. The student who's a busybody that wants to move and dance and all the time, give them an opportunity to be the leader of the dance break for the last 2 minutes of class. You create the opportunities where the students will thrive. Use their strengths to make your classroom a success. Accentuate the strengths. Find it what it is that they do well and accentuate it. Accentuate it. Discover hidden talents. This one is a huge one. I had a kid back in my middle school days when I was teaching, and we were clapping rhythms, and then we were going to transfer them over to the gym bays. And he was having a difficult time reading the rhythms. He could hear it and perform it fine, but if I asked him to read the rhythms, he would just kind of lock up and not participate. Well, come to find out, this young man had been drumming for his church for about 3 years. So he had a natural, innate ability. He was brilliant in his own right. He just didn't know how to read music. And silly old Mr. Willis was getting down on him for not reading the music. And he was brilliant on the drums. He never had someone to tell him, I see you, you're awesome. This is why you need to learn it. I didn't provide a hook. If you're able to read the music, you will be able to do even more. So discover those hidden talents that your students have and locate who matters. Every student in our building, they have one adult that they absolutely cherish, they love, and they respect. Find out what that teacher is doing to make that student tick. Find out what that teacher is doing to make that student excited about being in class. Let that student know that you are good colleagues with that teacher and that you're collaborating. Then they will see you as an advocate and begin to transform and change their behaviors. And please, Adjust your expectations. The days of our children being robots and everybody looking the same, doing the same, that is over. We have to adjust our expectations and meet our students where they are. And when we do that, that is a key to unlocking the brilliance in our students. So my next point in this is to diversify your curriculum. And I'm going to break that down, what I mean by that, right? So examine your teaching materials. What are you teaching? How are you teaching? What is the content? What is the history behind it? What is the why? Whenever I find a song, there has to be a why to why I'm teaching it to my students. If the why is not strong enough for me, then it's clearly not going to work for my students. So examine your teaching materials. And this just keeps popping up. Get to know your students. Get to know your students. If you have students who are very, they've been in a strong program and you're a new teacher, find out what happened before you got there. Get to know the culture and the climate of your program, of your students. Let students talk. I know y'all like, what? They talk too much already, Franklin. But when you let the students talk, they will tell you some important things, right? Let them talk. Let them tell you, I like this song because, right? That will help you in identifying what you need to do and what songs and what rep you can choose. I love to give surveys to my students at the end of the school year and ask them, what was the one lesson that you really liked? And to get the feedback from them. And some of the lessons that they would say, you're like, wow, that little lesson, that y'all like that? And then I'll ask them, what could I do better? What did you want that we didn't address? And then it gives you ideas as you move forward into the next school year. Let your students talk. Connect with the parents and the community. Parents are a gold mine when it comes to diversifying your curriculum. When your students meet members of their community, they get to see examples of people from different backgrounds succeeding in their field, and it might inspire them to think differently about their own culture and their future. Communicate your goals of diversity in the classroom to parents. Let them know. Ask if they have any questions or concerns, and then listen. Invite them to identify areas in the curriculum in which they may have expertise. Allow them to come in. Embrace the notion that your students are cultural experts, right? Have you ever heard those students making up beats with the pencil on the cafeteria table or on a desk? They know how to create ostinato already. Embrace the notion that they are musical and cultural experts, that they too can improvise and create, right? You are not the only musical expert in the classroom. You may have the degree, but your kids have some cultural capital that I think we as educators need to access and use. Ooh, this is a good one. Curriculum is not classroom management. And let me say this for the folks in the back. Curriculum is not classroom management. Just because you play the top number one song that's on the Billboard charts and you're ready to do this activity, that is not going to change what has already been set in place when it comes to classroom management. If your kids are off the wall and jumping all over the place, just because you add hip hop or rap, that might calm them down as they listen to the music. But once the music stops, it goes back to the regular scheduled program. So make sure that you're not substituting curriculum for classroom management. I could do a whole piece on classroom management, but just understand whatever you have in place before you add the fun, it will still be there. And sometimes it will be maximized and multiplied. So make sure you understand that curriculum is different than classroom management. And lastly, do your research. There have been tons and tons of new songs, especially in the elementary world, that we have been performing and singing and just embedded into our culture. Here recently, we have found that some of those songs are racist, they're sexist. Some of those songs we don't need to be teaching our kids. Now, is it your fault that those songs are bad? No. But once you are educated and you understand what those songs meant and how they were born and who they were supposed to be performed for, you need to change and you have to do your research. So, Franklin, finding the brilliance. Can we do a quick recap? You have to be flexible in your teaching and learning. Identify your biases. Never give up on students and diversify your curriculum. So now I want to talk to you about a student of mine. This is Bella and her mom. I had Bella her third grade year, and Bella was a fabulous music student. However, she had trouble accessing her brilliance. So this next video I want to share with you as a real life story of how, as music educators, we have a special ability and we have a special challenge as well to reach our students. And I'm going to play this video for you. Now, I had no idea it was going to be in front of 60,000 people, but she carried what she got here in this classroom and she took it on the stage.
The reason why I like music is because it feels like my happy place, and it lets me endure whatever is happening, whether it's good or bad.
She had some problems with some kids a little bit. There's always kids in every school that, would like to pick on other kids.
I met Bella her third grade year in my music class. She always had a talent, but she was afraid to share her gift. As a teacher, you have the opportunity to change the trajectory of a kid's life.
He loves his kids, and he wants them to know that his classroom is a safe place.
He sees things in kids that maybe others don't see, looks deeper into them. So if I could describe him, it would be absolutely passionate.
I do it through music, but it's more than music. I always say I am more than just a music teacher. 1, 2, 3.
This is me.
You know when it feels right? Because all of y'all, after you did, this is me, you said,
No, I
but that's how the music has to live inside of you. It's not, oh, I need to sing, I need to practice, Mr. Willis, I need to do it over and over. No, once you have the music in here, it never leaves. Doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your past. It doesn't matter what has been done to you. But it's okay to be yourself and to be uniquely you.
He encouraged me to build confidence. It was like a musical paradise.
Now, I had no idea it was going to be in front of 60,000 people, but she carried what she got here in this classroom, in these four walls. She took that same energy and she took it on the stage.
I really didn't know fully what she could do until she did that, and she just blew me away.
One of the most rich moments out of all of today was the young lady sitting on the back row, and she said, when I saw Bella, I remembered why I wanted to get in the choir. And I said, well, why did you want to get in the choir? And she said, because she was so strong, and I wanted to be just like her. That's why I teach, for those kids, for the Bellas. who needed that extra push. That's why I take it serious. That's why I teach, and that's why I'm here in music education. All right, so special thanks to the CMA Foundation. They came and shot that video at the school, and it still amazes me that they were able to capture exactly what this presentation is saying. It is our duty to not only find the brilliance in our kids, but I also want you to think about this. It is your duty to find yourself, right? What do you mean by that, Franklin? I'm going somewhere with this. What is brilliant about you as a music educator, right? Before you realize the brilliance in your students, you must be able to realize the brilliance in yourself, right? How can you develop your brilliance? And the other question I really want you to take and self-reflect on is, what is the first step you can take today to begin the process of acknowledging your own brilliance? Everyone watching this telecast is brilliant in their own right. How will you develop your brilliance? Right? So I know I'm going short on my time, and or is it going long on my time? Long on my time. But I want to ask you guys some questions, and feel free to comment. How do you define brilliance in your students? Now that we've kind of did a deep dive, what is your definition of brilliance in music education? Think about a time when you felt your students were brilliant. What were the characteristics? And how often do you tell your students they are brilliant? So I threw a lot at y'all tonight, but I wanted to make sure that you were able to understand that brilliance is walking beside you and it's near you every day you walk into that classroom. And I want you to take time to really think about the definition of brilliance. Take off those brilliance blockers, right? No matter what type of teaching situation you're in, if you're in a urban environment, if you're in an inner city environment, there is brilliance everywhere. How can we spread that brilliance and acknowledge it? I think we had some good responses to some questions, I believe, from earlier that I want to get to before I do my conclusion here. But I do think that as educators, we have a calling. It's truly a calling, and we have to be able to walk in that calling, and acknowledge it. All right, some of the comments.
Okay, so the first question that you asked was, what is your definition of brilliance?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we read Sarah's comment. Julie Hill says, brilliance is being a learner for life, one who has no ego and seeks knowledge from anywhere they find it, from colleagues, teachers, community members, friends, custodians, and anyone with whom we interact.
I got to give some snaps up for Julie on that. Thank you, Julie.
I'll read another one. Let's see. Nick Mullins says, when I hear brilliance, I think of color. A brilliant color is bright. It shows potential. A brilliant student can use their brilliance to brighten others.
A brilliant student can use their brilliance to brighten others. Thank you, Nick. That's powerful.
Want me to read another?
We'll take one more. before I wrap up.
Okay. You want me to read another question for your second question? Because
Sure.
there were some really good.
Yeah. From the second question?
Yeah, so the second question was, let me get to it, sorry. How has fear impacted your teaching or learning? And Ashley Copeland says, being afraid to try new things and fail. Being afraid to not be as good as other music teachers. Being afraid of administration and or parent backlash.
Thank you, Ashley. My Kentucky folks.
Vanessa Valdez says, it holds me back from being my full creative self in the classroom and music curriculum.
You got one more?
Cody Duff says, fear impacts my teaching because I compare myself to others and what other programs are doing.
And we have that bad, Cody, as music teachers. We look at what other people are doing and we begin to compare, right? But we all have something unique and special about us that only we can do, right? So the moment we take that and run with it, that's when true teaching and learning can take place. When we take our students right where they are and we build them up, we love them, and we give them the tools they need to succeed, and then magical things will happen. I know firsthand because I've seen it, right? When things that you can't explain happen, when that kid who was so shy begins to bust up out of that shell, it is an amazing experience. And that is brilliance. That right there is brilliance. So I have a few things I need to say before I wrap up. What I know for sure is that our students are brilliant. They are resilient. They are strong. They are courageous. They are leaders. They have the it factor. It is our jobs as teachers to figure out what that it is. Once we realize that, that is when transformative teaching and learning can take place. That's brilliance. Does it take work to find the brilliance in some of our kids? The obvious answer is yes, but it may be easier than you think. Once we understand that there are different forms of brilliance, only then will we begin to see how truly amazing each student is and can be. There is brilliance in the song they sing on the playground. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. That song drove me crazy. But you know what? After testing and they were singing that song and I had music class and I wanted to keep them engaged, guess what I did? I found me the instrumental to Old Town Road. I picked up some rhythm sticks and we went to town. And it was brilliant. There's brilliance in that pencil beat on the cafeteria table, right? There's brilliance in their witty response from a student that makes the entire class laugh. Can you imagine Kevin Hart and all these other folks in class and the jokes they made? And look at them now, right? There's brilliance in that. There is brilliance in the child who is soft-spoken and very shy. No matter what, our students have brilliance. The question I want to leave you with is, will we identify that brilliance? Now, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. My name is Franklin Willis, and you can follow me on all social media platforms at F. Willis Music. Tune in weeknights, Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. to watch Keeping the Beat live. And remember to tell your friends about this awesome program. I want to thank Alexis, and I want to thank Julie, and I want to thank the whole team of Keeping the Beat for allowing me the opportunity to share my thoughts and philosophy on music education and how to access and find brilliance in our students. Special shout out to CMA Foundation for sponsoring this amazing program, and thank you for everyone who has tuned in. Presenters, if you would like to apply to be a presenter, they're still looking for presenters. Head on over to tnmea.org, and there's a short application where you can submit your idea. We want to hear from you. You have something to share. Please sign up and share. I would like to say thank you for watching. Everybody have a fabulous night. Bye.